The massive intergalactic transport ship, the Celestial Horizon, cut through the starry void like a gleaming silver needle. Its hull, a marvel of modern engineering, housed representatives from 17 different galactic species, each more exotic and complex than the last. The ship's central conference hall buzzed with the subtle translations of 100 different languages, a symphony of alien communication that would have overwhelmed any human not trained in diplomatic interactions. Sarah Martinez adjusted her standard-issue diplomatic uniform, a deceptively simple ensemble that belied the advanced communication and survival technologies woven into its very fabric. Her eyes, a deep brown that seemed to absorb more than they reflected, swept across the conference hall. To the untrained observer, she appeared relaxed, almost bored. But every muscle, every nerve was hyper-aware of the intricate social dance playing out around her. Captain Zixrel of the Luminarian Diplomatic Corps watched her with growing unease. The Luminarians were known for their ability to read microexpressions, a skill that had made them legendary negotiators across the galaxy. Yet something about the human delegation defied their usual intuitive understanding. While representatives from other species jostled for proximity to the central discussion platforms, positioning themselves to be seen and heard, the humans consistently chose the periphery. Behavioral anomaly confirmed. Zixrel murmured into the personal translation device embedded near his auditory receptor. The device's AI instantly translated his native clicking language into standard galactic communication. Human diplomatic team demonstrates persistent pattern of marginal positioning. The ship's internal systems hummed with a complex network of sensors and communication arrays. Each species had their own specialized communication channels, but the human technology seemed different. It was adaptive, almost organic in its ability to integrate and communicate across multiple platforms. Sarah caught Zixrel's gaze and offered a smile that was simultaneously friendly and unreadable. Years of diplomatic training had taught her the art of strategic communication. Her seemingly casual posture masked a complex network of micro-movements and subtle signals that communicated more than any verbal language ever could. Beside her, Michael Chen, another human diplomat, appeared to be half asleep. His head was slightly lowered, eyes seemingly unfocused. But Sarah knew better. Michael was mapping the entire room, tracking the subtle power dynamics, recording every nuanced interaction with technology so advanced it bordered on biological. The Celestial Horizon approached a critical diplomatic waypoint. Negotiations between the Quantum Collective and the Silicon Nexus were reaching a delicate stage. Most species would be leaning forward, eager to catch every word, every subtle shift in diplomatic positioning. The humans, however, remained in their chosen spaces at the back of the conference hall. What the other species failed to understand was that distance did not mean disengagement. For humans, the back row was a strategic vantage point. It was a position of ultimate observation, of complete situational awareness. Here, they could see everything, understand everything, while revealing nothing. Little did the gathered species know that this seemingly simple seating choice would soon reveal the most profound truth about humanity's extraordinary capabilities. The conference hall's ambient noise masked a complex communication network that most species couldn't even perceive. Dr. Elia Reyes understood the intricate dance of human interaction better than anyone aboard the Celestial Horizon. Her fingers moved almost imperceptibly, tracing subtle patterns on her sleeve, a communication method developed through generations of adaptive intelligence. To the untrained eye, the human delegation appeared disconnected. Michael Chen seemed to be dozing, his head slightly tilted and eyes half closed. Sarah Martinez appeared to be studying her datapad with minimal interest. Yet between them, a sophisticated information exchange was happening at speeds that would make most alien communication systems look primitive. The Quantum Collective's representatives shifted uncomfortably. Their neural link communication relied on direct psychic connections, a technology they believed was the pinnacle of interspecies dialogue. They couldn't comprehend the humans' seemingly archaic method of communication, a blend of body language, micro-expressions, and technology so subtle it bordered on instinctual. Dr. Carax, the lead Luminarian xenobiologist, had been studying human communication patterns for decades. His multiple eyes, a biological feature that allowed simultaneous perception from different angles, tracked the human delegation with intense curiosity. Something about their interaction defied every known communication model in the Galactic database. A barely perceptible twitch of Sarah's left eyebrow, a slight shift in Michael's breathing, a momentary pause in Dr. Rice's data pad scrolling. To an outsider, these were meaningless gestures, but to trained human observers, it was a full conversation happening in milliseconds. The ship's advanced communication systems struggled to decode their interactions. Quantum encryption, biological signaling, and technological augmentation merged in a way that seemed to defy the fundamental rules of information transfer. Each human carried multiple layers of communication technology, some visible, most completely invisible. Dr. Reyes understood the historical context of their communication method. It was born from centuries of human survival, a species that had learned to communicate in whispers, in stolen glances, in moments of extreme danger. Their ancestors had survived through subtle communication in environments that demanded absolute discretion. Michael Chen's background as a military intelligence specialist gave him unique insights. He had spent years developing communication protocols that could transmit complex information through the most minimal of signals. The human's current method was a culmination of military strategy, technological innovation, and evolutionary adaptation. The Silicon Nexus representatives grew increasingly uncomfortable. Their communication relied on direct data transfer, with every interaction logged and analyzed. The humans presented a completely unpredictable variable, a communication method that seemed to exist in the spaces between observable interactions. A minor diplomatic incident was brewing. The Quantum Collective had proposed a complex trade agreement that most species would take weeks to analyze. The human delegation was already 3 steps ahead, their internal communication having dissected every potential outcome within moments of the proposal being made. Sarah Martinez caught Dr. Carax's prolonged observation. She offered a smile, warm, disarming, but revealing absolutely nothing. It was a smile that had been perfected through generations of human diplomacy, a tool that could communicate friendship and maintain complete distance simultaneously. The true power of human communication wasn't in what they said. It was in what they chose not to reveal. Each gesture, each seemingly random movement was part of a complex strategy that most species couldn't even begin to comprehend. As the celestial horizon continued its journey, the human delegation remained in their chosen positions, silent, observing, calculating, waiting for the perfect moment to reveal their true capabilities. The first warning came as a whisper of static across the celestial horizon's communication arrays. Most species missed it entirely, a microscopic fluctuation that would have gone unnoticed by any other civilization. But the humans caught it immediately. Sarah Martinez's hand moved almost imperceptibly, tapping a complex sequence onto her datapad. Michael Chen's breathing changed, not dramatically, but with a precision that spoke of years of training. Dr. Ilya Rice was already analyzing the ship's core systems before the first alarm could sound. The Luminarian engineering team was still trying to understand the initial data burst when the first system failure occurred. Quantum stabilizers in the ship's primary drive began to destabilize, creating a cascading failure that would have torn any other vessel apart within milliseconds. Captain Zixrel watched in horror as multiple species began to panic. The Quantum Collective's representatives started emergency shutdown protocols. The Silicon Nexus delegation scrambled to access emergency communication channels. Chaos erupted in a symphony of terror and confusion. The humans did something entirely different. Michael Chen moved first. His hands blurred across a holographic interface that seemed to materialize from nowhere. Years of training in emergency systems management, combined with cutting-edge technological augmentation, allowed him to interface with the ship's core systems in ways no other species could comprehend. Sarah Martinez coordinated with precision, Her communication was a dance of subtle gestures, quick glances, and micro-movements that directed the human delegation like a perfectly choreographed unit. Each member knew their role, their purpose, their exact moment of action. Dr. Rice was already rewriting the ship's emergency protocols. Her fingers moved faster than most species could perceive, creating adaptive algorithms that could respond to the ship's failing systems in real time. What would have taken other civilizations hours of committee meetings and bureaucratic negotiations, she solved in seconds. The ship's quantum stabilizers began to fail. Containment fields flickered. Radiation levels spiked in ways that would have been fatal to most biological entities. The other species were preparing for evacuation, their emergency protocols woefully inadequate for the complexity of the developing crisis. But the humans were already working. Michael's technological intervention began to stabilize the primary drive. Adaptive algorithms rewrote the ship's core programming, creating new pathways of communication and energy management. What should have been a catastrophic failure became a complex problem to be solved. Sarah coordinated the human delegation's efforts across multiple systems. Her communication was a masterpiece of efficiency, each team member understanding their role without a single spoken word. They moved like a single organism, adapting and responding to the ship's critical condition. Dr. Rice completed her systems analysis. The failure wasn't random. It was a deliberate attempt to compromise the diplomatic mission. Someone had introduced a complex technological infection into the ship's core systems. While other species would have been destroyed, the humans saw an opportunity. The celestial horizon began to stabilize. Systems that should have been offline came back online with impossible speed. The ship's core drive, which moments ago had been on the brink of total failure, now hummed with newfound efficiency. Captain Zixrel watched in stunned silence. The human delegation had not just saved the ship. They had transformed a potential disaster into a demonstration of technological mastery that defied comprehension. As the crisis subsided, the other species looked at the humans with a mixture of fear and profound respect. What had seemed like a simple diplomatic mission had become something else entirely, a demonstration of humanity's true potential. The humans remained in their back row positions, calm, calculating, waiting. The genetic research facility on the celestial horizon was a marvel of interstellar scientific collaboration. Dr. Xandor, the lead Croxian geneticist, had spent decades studying the most complex biological systems in the known galaxy. Nothing could have prepared him for the human genetic profile. Holographic displays flickered with intricate DNA sequences that defied conventional understanding. What initially appeared to be random genetic variations revealed themselves as an incredibly sophisticated adaptive mechanism. The human genome was less a static blueprint and more a dynamic living system of unprecedented complexity. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the human genetic specialist, watched the Croxian researchers with a mixture of professional curiosity and carefully concealed amusement. She understood something the other species had yet to comprehend. Human genetics was a story of survival, of constant adaptation, of evolution accelerated by millennia of challenging environments. The genetic markers told a story that went far beyond simple biological inheritance. Traces of genetic modifications sat alongside naturally evolved adaptations, creating a hybrid system of genetic potential that seemed to break every known rule of biological development. Each human cell carried the potential for rapid adaptation that would make most species look like static organisms. Dr. Xandor's multiple sensory organs processed the data with increasing excitement. The human neural pathways showed an elasticity that bordered on the impossible. Synaptic connections that could reorganize themselves in milliseconds, genetic sequences that could activate or suppress entire biological systems based on environmental stimuli. It was unlike anything in the Galactic genetic database. This is not just adaptation, Dr. Xandor murmured to his research team. This is a living, breathing system of continuous evolution. The genetic analysis revealed layers of complexity that challenged everything known about biological development. Humans carried genetic memories that went beyond simple inherited traits. Their DNA seemed to store not just biological information, but complex adaptive strategies developed over thousands of years of survival. Michael Chen's genetic profile was particularly fascinating. Markers showed adaptations that spoke of generations of survival in challenging environments, from Arctic conditions to extreme urban landscapes, from technological revolutions to ecological challenges. Each genetic sequence told a story of resilience, of pushing beyond perceived limitations. Dr. Rodriguez explained the concept of epigenetic adaptation, how human genetics could rapidly modify gene expression in response to environmental challenges. What other species saw as genetic stability, humans saw as a dynamic system of continuous improvement. The research team discovered something even more extraordinary. Human genetic potential seemed to have no true upper limit. Unlike other species with fixed evolutionary trajectories, humans carried within them the potential for continuous rapid adaptation. Their genetic code was less a predetermined path and more an open-ended system of infinite possibilities. Comparative studies with other galactic species revealed the true extent of human genetic uniqueness. Where most species had reached a plateau of genetic development, humans showed a continuous curve of potential improvement. Each generation carried the capacity to be fundamentally different from the last, yet connected through an incredible adaptive lineage. Dr. Xandor realized they were looking at something more than a species. Humans represented a new category of biological potential, a living system of adaptation that could transform faster than any known biological entity in the galaxy. The genetic research had started as a routine analysis. It was quickly becoming a complete reconstruction of understanding about biological potential, adaptation, and the very nature of life itself. As the holographic displays continued to show the intricate dance of human genetic sequences, one thing became crystal clear. Humanity was not just another species in the galactic ecosystem. They were something entirely new, a biological system of continuous, unpredictable potential. The other species had no idea what was coming. The diplomatic chamber of the celestial horizon transformed into a complex chessboard of psychological warfare. Sarah Martinez sat seemingly relaxed, her posture revealing nothing, her mind calculating possibilities several moves ahead of everyone else in the room. The negotiations between the Quantum Collective and the Silicon Nexus had reached a critical impasse. Trade routes through the Centauri expanse hung in the balance, with billions of economic credits and the potential for interstellar conflict at stake. Most species approached such negotiations with direct confrontation, their communication arrays blazing with complex data streams and emotional projections. Humans did something entirely different. Dr. Elia Rice watched the room with a clinical precision that would have made professional psychologists from any species look like amateurs. She understood that true negotiation happened in the spaces between words, in the subtle shifts of power dynamics that most species couldn't even perceive. Michael Chen began to work his particular brand of psychological magic. To the untrained observer, he appeared to be only marginally involved in the proceedings. A slight adjustment of his datapad, a nearly imperceptible shift in his breathing, a momentary glance that carried more information than most species could communicate in entire diplomatic transmissions. The Luminarian diplomatic team had spent centuries perfecting their negotiation techniques. They prided themselves on their ability to read microexpressions, to navigate the most complex interstellar political landscapes. But the humans introduced a variable they couldn't comprehend. Sarah Martinez understood something fundamental about communication that other species missed entirely. Negotiation was not about winning. It was about creating a space where all parties believed they were winning, while subtly guiding the entire conversation toward a predetermined outcome. Her communication was a masterpiece of psychological manipulation. A carefully placed comment here, a seemingly innocent question there. Each word was a precision instrument, designed to subtly reshape the entire diplomatic landscape. The Silicon Nexus representatives began to change their approach almost unconsciously. Their rigid communication protocols started to soften, their hard lines of negotiation becoming more fluid. They had no idea they were being guided by a human delegation that hadn't spoken a direct word of instruction. Dr. Carax of the Luminarian Observation Team watched in fascination. The human psychological approach was unlike anything in the Galactic diplomatic archives. They didn't fight for position. They created position. They didn't demand respect. They generated an environment where respect became the only possible outcome. Michael Chen's background in military intelligence played a crucial role. Years of studying conflict resolution, of understanding the deepest psychological motivations of diverse cultures, had prepared him for exactly this type of complex interaction. Each member of the human delegation carried decades of specialized training that transformed diplomatic interaction into an art form. The negotiation wasn't just about the immediate trade routes. It was about establishing a new paradigm of interstellar communication. The humans were rewriting the rules of diplomatic engagement without anyone realizing they were doing so. Dr. Reyes noted how the other species' communication systems became increasingly adaptive. The humans weren't just participating in the negotiation. They were teaching an entire galaxy how to communicate more effectively. As the diplomatic session reached its conclusion, something extraordinary happened. The Quantum Collective and the Silicon Nexus reached an agreement that seemed impossible just hours before. Each side believed they had achieved their primary objectives, unaware of the subtle guidance that had brought them to this point. The human delegation remained in their back row positions, calm, collected, the architects of a diplomatic breakthrough that would reshape interstellar relations. They had done it without firing a single communication burst, without raising their voices, without even seeming to try. The research facility aboard the Celestial Horizon was a marvel of interstellar scientific collaboration. What began as a routine technology exchange quickly transformed into something far more profound. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the center of a technological revolution that would reshape galactic understanding. A quantum communication device sat at the center of the examination table. The Silicon Nexus had presented it as their most advanced piece of communication technology, a system they claimed could transmit information across hundreds of light years with unprecedented clarity and speed. Most species would spend months, even years, studying such a device. The human intern assigned to the analysis team did something entirely unexpected. Michael Chen watched as Sarah Bennett, a 26-year-old systems engineer, approached the device. Her movements were calculated, her focus intense. Where other species saw a completed technological marvel, she saw a system of possibilities waiting to be reimagined. Within 30 minutes, Sarah had completely dismantled the quantum communication device, not to destroy it, but to understand it at a level no other species could comprehend. Her hands moved with a precision that bordered on artistry, each component examined, understood, and then reimagined. The other species watched in stunned silence. Dr. Xandor of the Croxian research team couldn't believe what he was witnessing. The human approach to technology was fundamentally different from anything in the galactic scientific community. Where most species saw technology as a fixed system, humans saw it as a living, breathing entity capable of constant transformation. Sarah began rebuilding the device, but not in its original form. She integrated components from multiple technological systems, creating something that was both familiar and completely alien. Adaptive circuits that could reconfigure themselves, communication protocols that could learn and modify in real time, a system of technological potential that defied conventional understanding. The quantum communication device was no longer just a communication tool. It had become a living system of information exchange that could adapt to any environmental challenge. Dr. Rodriguez explained the human approach to technological innovation. It wasn't about creating the most advanced system. It was about creating systems that could continuously evolve, that could learn and adapt faster than any fixed technological platform. The Silicon Nexus representatives watched in a mixture of horror and fascination. Their most advanced piece of technology had been completely reimagined in less time than it would take most species to complete initial diagnostic procedures. Michael Chen understood the deeper implications. Human technological innovation was never about the end product. It was about the process of continuous improvement, of seeing potential where others saw limitations. The research team discovered something extraordinary. The modified device could now transmit information across vastly greater distances, with exponentially improved clarity and security. What the Silicon Nexus had considered a pinnacle of technological achievement was now merely a starting point. Dr. Xandor realized they were witnessing something more than technological innovation. This was a fundamental reimagining of what technology could be. Humans didn't just improve existing systems, they transformed them entirely. As the demonstration concluded, the other species in the research facility began to understand a profound truth. Human technological potential had no real limits. Where other civilizations saw boundaries, humans saw opportunities for continuous transformation. The device sat on the examination table, a testament to human ingenuity. What had started as a standard technological analysis had become a complete reconstruction of understanding about technological potential. The other species had no idea what was coming. Technological supremacy wasn't about having the most advanced system. It was about the capacity for endless reinvention. The cosmic anomaly appeared without warning, a massive quantum disturbance that threatened to unravel the fundamental fabric of space-time across multiple star systems. The Galactic Council convened in absolute panic, their most advanced monitoring systems struggling to comprehend the scale of the impending catastrophe. Sarah Martinez stood in the back of the emergency response chamber, while other species representatives scrambled with increasingly desperate communication protocols. She remained calm. Her eyes scanned multiple holographic displays, processing information at a speed that would have overwhelmed any other biological system. Dr. Elena Rodriguez began coordinating the human response. It wasn't a traditional approach of immediate intervention. Instead, it was a multi-layered strategy of observation, analysis, and adaptive planning that made the other species look like children playing with complex machinery. The anomaly defied every known law of quantum mechanics. It consumed entire star systems, warped space-time, and moved with a logic that seemed completely incomprehensible. The quantum collective's most advanced predictive models collapsed within moments of analysis. The Silicon Nexus's computational systems were overwhelmed. Humans did something entirely different. Michael Chen's hands moved across a holographic interface that seemed to materialize from nothing. Years of training in quantum mechanics, systems analysis, and adaptive problem-solving came together in a moment of unprecedented innovation. Where other species saw an impossible threat, he saw a complex system waiting to be understood. The human delegation began to work, not with panic, but with a calculated precision that bordered on the supernatural. Each team member operated as part of a living, breathing computational system. Their biological and technological capabilities merged in ways that defied conventional understanding. Dr. Xandor watched in stunned silence. The human approach was unlike anything in the Galactic archives. They weren't trying to stop the anomaly. They were trying to understand it, to map its fundamental nature, to find the core logic that drove its seemingly random destruction. Sarah Martinez coordinated with a communication method that transcended traditional technological interfaces. Micro-movements, subtle gestures, and an almost telepathic level of team coordination allowed the human delegation to process information faster than any known computational system. The Galactic Council's most advanced predictive models predicted total destruction of at least 17 star systems. The human team saw something else entirely. Where others saw chaos, they saw a pattern waiting to be decoded. Hour after hour, the humans worked. Their technological augmentations, their adaptive genetic potential, their unique approach to problem-solving all came together in a moment of unprecedented innovation. They weren't just analyzing the anomaly. They were beginning to communicate with it. Dr. Rodriguez explained the fundamental human approach. Most species saw threats as something to be destroyed. Humans saw them as complex systems to be understood, to be engaged with, to be transformed. As the cosmic anomaly continued to expand, something extraordinary began to happen. The human team started to develop a predictive model that could not just track the anomaly, but potentially redirect its fundamental energy. The other species watched in a mixture of terror and fascination. What had seemed like an impossible threat was becoming a problem to be solved, not through brute force, but through understanding, adaptation, and an almost intuitive approach to complex systems. Michael Chen looked up from his holographic interface. A slight smile crossed his face. The anomaly wasn't a threat. It was an opportunity, a chance to understand something fundamental about the nature of space, time, and existence itself. The human delegation remained in their chosen position, calm, calculating, waiting to reveal the full extent of their extraordinary potential. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. The aftermath of the cosmic anomaly revealed something far more profound than any scientific breakthrough. The Galactic Council assembled in a state of collective shock, struggling to comprehend what had just occurred. Where 17 star systems should have been destroyed, humanity had not just prevented a catastrophe. They had transformed an existential threat into a moment of unprecedented discovery. Sarah Martinez stood before the council, her presentation a masterpiece of scientific communication. She wasn't just reporting findings. She was rewriting the fundamental understanding of cosmic interactions, of species potential, of the very nature of existence. Dr. Elena Rodriguez provided the scientific context. The cosmic anomaly wasn't a threat. It was a complex system of quantum interactions that humans had managed to not just understand, but communicate with. Where other species saw destruction, humans saw a language waiting to be decoded. The Luminarian representatives struggled to process the implications. Captain Zixrel reviewed the data streams, his multiple sensory organs working overtime to comprehend what had happened. The human delegation had done something impossible. They had engaged with a cosmic phenomenon in a way that defied every known scientific protocol. Michael Chen explained the breakthrough. It wasn't about stopping the anomaly. It was about understanding its fundamental nature. The human approach transformed the threat into a source of unprecedented scientific knowledge. They had essentially learned to communicate with a cosmic scale phenomenon that other species would have considered purely destructive. The Silicon Nexus computational systems had collapsed trying to analyze the anomaly. The quantum collective's most advanced predictive models had failed completely. Yet the humans had not just survived, they had thrived, turning an impossible challenge into a moment of collective scientific achievement. Dr. Xandor realized they were witnessing something more than a scientific breakthrough. This was a fundamental reimagining of what a species could be. Humans weren't just solving problems. They were transforming the very concept of problem solving. The Galactic Council's report was unprecedented. Humanity was no longer to be classified as a developing species. They were a transformative force that could not be categorized, could not be predicted, could not be contained. Sarah Martinez's final presentation revealed the deepest truth. The cosmic anomaly was more than a threat. It was a form of communication that humans were uniquely positioned to understand. Their adaptive genetics, their technological innovation, their unique approach to complex systems, all of these came together in a moment of extraordinary potential. The other species began to understand something profound. Humanity wasn't just another civilization in the galactic ecosystem. They were a fundamental force of innovation, of adaptation, of continuous transformation. Michael Chen demonstrated how the humans had not just survived the anomaly, but had extracted technologies and understanding that would revolutionize multiple scientific disciplines. Communication protocols that could adapt to quantum-level interactions, technological systems that could learn and transform in real time. Dr. Rodriguez explained the human approach. Most species saw challenges as problems to be solved. Humans saw them as opportunities for growth, for understanding, for fundamental transformation. The Galactic Council's final assessment was clear. Humanity represented something entirely new in the cosmic landscape, A species that did not just adapt to challenges but transformed them entirely. A civilization that saw limitations as opportunities, that turned threats into moments of unprecedented discovery. As the presentation concluded, the other species realized a fundamental truth. The humans who had always sat in the back row were not passive observers. They were the architects of a new understanding of existence itself. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had arrived.